Hello, Jen here with a layout for the Everyday Inspiration series. This is a series where Christy, Crystal, Daisy, Dolly, Lisa, and myself all come together every month, and one of us will take a picture of our everyday life, and the rest of us use that as inspiration for a layout. So this month is my month, and as you can see, we are all about dance. Dance competition season started in March, and we are right in the thick of it. And I snapped this photo actually on the morning where we were getting ready to leave for a dance competition about 3 hours away from where we live. And I guess the night before, my daughter must have laid out all of her stuff on the Chesterfield like that, because we try not to pack any of her dresses too early because we don't want them to get crumpled and full of wrinkles and stuff. So she had them all laid out, and her shoes and stuff, and when I came downstairs I saw that and I snapped a photo, and I thought, yeah, that's a pretty good picture of what our life is like from about March to the beginning of June. So I thought it was a good inspiration photo for this month. And I know a lot of people with kids who dance are in the middle of competition season, so it probably speaks to a lot of you out there too. You know what it's like to be a dance mom. So, and next year I'm going to be dance mom to 2 people, because my middle, who does hip hop, was invited to join the competitive hip hop team. So yeah, that'll be good times. Busy, but good times. And competition season here also falls right at the beginning of lacrosse season, which Fox is also in. So yep, the kids keep us on our toes. Anyways, let's get to the actual layout. So in the photo, you can see that one of my daughter's costumes, it's actually her jazz costume, which she does to a song called Jungle Drum. And the costume is this beautiful dark wine color, kind of, I don't know, like a maroon or a burgundy. And I love that color. I think that color looks stunning on her. And I love that color, because it's different, because we don't really see a lot of that in scrapbooking. And so I kind of wanted to run with that as my main color. And I didn't go as dark as the actual costume is, because honestly, I really didn't have that many papers, pattern papers especially, that would match it. So the colors that, as you can see, that I kind of did the mixed media, they're a little bit lighter. They're a little bit more on the pink tones, because I'm trying to get them to match the Midnight collection from Cocoa Vanilla, sorry. So I did want to incorporate that color, but I just toned it down a little bit and kind of made it just a shade more pink than that really deep wine color. And then the other inspiration I took, obviously, as you can see, I'm using a dance photo. So I did, for a second, I thought I would actually just print out this photo, the inspiration photo, and scrap that, or maybe scrap a photo of my daughter in the costume that kind of, for me anyway, stands out of all of her costumes. But I have a whole bunch of old dance photos, and I need to get them done first before I can start scrapping this year's photos. So the one I'm scrapping is actually from a couple of years ago, I think 2017, and it's one of her other contemporary numbers, and it's just, she's wearing all black. And then the background is all white. So I thought that this was perfect to be able to use any colors that I wanted to scrap it. And so I'm running with this nice dark burgundy. And I didn't put any gesso on the paper, so when I did my big drops before I smushed it, you can kind of still see where they are, because they sat there for a little while and absorbed into the paper. And I just love the texture that gave. So I just kind of pulled out different reddish burgundy colors that I saw. I didn't try to mix colors on my own, and I just used two different watercolor palettes. I used my Artist Loft one, which has that more chalky texture, and then I used that Koi one, which I use that one more for the pink, but it has a more traditional watercolor texture to it, so I kind of like mixing the two of them. And I did the same thing with the black. The Koi black is really nice and dark and black, but it's more traditional watercolor where it's transparent. And then the Artist Loft black is actually a little bit thicker and chalkier, so they kind of work well together, and you can really see, especially here, you can kind of see at least two of the dots where there's a little bit of transparency to some of the black, and then it's kind of thicker in some spots. It's just how the two watercolors work together and dry on the paper. And I like that. And then I tore my papers. It took a little bit of courage, I have to admit, because I've been hoarding these papers, and if you guys follow me, you know that I've been working on getting through this collection, but they're so pretty, and whenever I pull it out, part of me just wants to hold back a little bit, and finally I'm saying no, and I went ahead and I tore them, and I kind of layered them in the same way that she had her costumes layered on the back of the Chesterfield. So that's the other inspiration that I took from that photo, just having those kind of layered columns of paper in the same way that she had her costumes. And I added a little bit more mixed media there just because I felt like it needed to be pulled all the way to that right-hand side. So for my title, I'm really challenging myself to use these thickers. I think they've actually maybe been sitting on the paper a little bit too long because I'm struggling to get them off of the backing. But I've had them out since January. They've been in my How to Kill a Kit with Style kit since January, and I haven't used them yet. So I really, really wanted to try to get them used on this layout. And since I'm going with all pink anyways, I might as well add them in. So I'm just going to stick them here. I feel like they kind of blend in a little bit. They kind of add to the feeling of the columns. They don't really stand out too much. So they just add a little bit of, I don't know, something different. For me anyways, that's different. It's not the normal place where I would put a title, so I kind of thought that worked. And they follow the line of the ripped paper anyways, so I think that was kind of nice too. So to add a little bit more black and just really add some more of that contrast, I pulled out my floral stamp from Wild Whisper. Floral is their collection for the month of April, and it's so gorgeous. I love these little rosettes. They're really pretty, and so I thought that they would work really well with this paper and with this layout. I used one of the flower papers, or I guess, is it the only flower paper I have? It might be the only one I have from Midnight, but I used that as one of my columns, and so just adding these extra flowers works really well. So I kind of tucked them into the layers, and I put one there on that left-hand edge because I'm going to put an embellishment cluster there. And then just to kind of, I don't know, maybe this is my fear of white space, and I know I'm working on it, but I felt like the corners needed something. I felt like it just needed something to kind of keep the layout from just kind of running away, if that makes sense. And normally I would have probably taken a black marker and done a border along the edge there, but I thought since I have my stamps out, I'm going to try and do something a little bit different for me. This whole layout is kind of different for me, so I might as well keep going with it. And so I've just added that little bit of stamping in those two corners, and I feel like that's exactly what I needed. I just needed something that kind of kept the eye from moving off of the page because it was so white in those two corners. And then for my embellishment, I've pulled out a few little bits of ephemera from the ephemera packs. I think most of it is from Midnight, but some of it I think also came from the More Than Words collection. I'm down to just the last few bits and pieces of those two ephemera packs, so I've kind of stuck them together. I think there's more Midnight than More Than Words, but they're all mixed in together now. And they are slightly different. The More Than Words collection definitely is a little bit more on the pastel-y spring side. But you can pull out a lot of the little bits and pieces that match each other, so you can mix these two collections together pretty well, especially when it comes to the pinks. So I'm going to do 3 main embellishment clusters. You can see that embellishment cluster I was playing with the other day. That's why it's all stuck together already. It just happened to work really well right here with this layout because of how her leg is lifted up there. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. So that'll be my biggest embellishment cluster. And then I have that other kind of medium-sized one on the left-hand side. And then I'm going to put another one up at the top where I have one of my stamped little rosettes. And I'll add some embroidery floss to that little cluster as well. I just like the texture. And it was already out on my desk because I've been using it so much lately. So I figured, why not add more? And I'm never really worried. I get this question a lot, actually. I'm never really worried about if I'm kind of on a kick with something, like if I'm really inspired by using something, a certain product, or in this case, the embroidery floss or whatever it might be. I'm never really worried about having my layouts feel repetitive because I don't scrap chronologically. So most of the time, I'm not scrapping very many layouts that are going to show up in the same album together. And so, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, when you're looking through all of the albums, you're really not going to be able to tell that I happen to be super obsessed with embroidery floss for, 6 months in 2019 or whatever it is. You won't notice that because the layouts are all spread out. So I go with it. If it's on my desk and it's there for 4 months, and every time I see whatever it is, a stamp or the embroidery floss or whatever it might be, I'm just going to go ahead and use it. Especially lately because I feel like I haven't had a lot of time to scrap, and so I've hit a bit of a slump. So if something is really speaking to me, even if it's the same thing that I've used on the last 20 layouts, I'm just going to keep using it because, it's just what feels right to me. So same goes for the sequins. I love my sequins. So I pulled out my Dollar Tree sequins here because they have a few different shades of pink, and I'm just going to do 3 little different shades of pink in each of those clusters. I also stuck a few little random bits of ephemera in the layers, just because I thought that added some interest. I feel like the mixed media is kind of messy and fun, and the layers are kind of messy and fun, so I'm just going to add all the random bits that I think work. And here are some enamel dots. I just like how bold and black those are. And the last little touch that I'm going to do is some tinsel Heidi Swapp Color Shine. And this dries to a kind of grayish silver. And I just like how it adds a little bit of shine. I didn't want to add gold. I wanted to keep going with that kind of dark, and so I really like the tinsel. Mine doesn't work very well. It's kind of frothy and weird, but I think it still adds a little bit of pretty silver. And that's it. That's my layout. If you guys have any questions, please leave them for me down below. And be sure to check out the other ladies because their layouts are phenomenal as usual. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Until next time, happy scrapping. Bye.